On the face of it, Apple's latest iPad doesn't look as though it offers much of an upgrade over the Apple iPad 2020. It's got the same thick top and bottom bezels and uses Touch ID rather than Apple's Face ID Unlock, but for those who want some of the features of Apple's more expensive tablets without those slates price tags, it represents excellent value. For money, the new iPad can be used with the Apple Pencil and Smart Keyboard sold separately for those times when you need a laptop-style experience. And it comes running iPadOS 15, the latest version of Apple's dedicated tablet OS with its host of multitasking features, not to mention access to the thousands of apps and games found in the App Store. And it does all this for considerably less than both the new iPad Mini 5, Apple's most compact slate, and the Apple iPad Air 4, the middle child of the iPad range. It may get even cheaper soon, though, as the new iPad 2022 is expected to land before long, possibly on September 7th when the iPhone 14 is thought to be launching, or possibly a bit later in October, but soon. So you may want to wait for that slate and either buy the new one instead or get this model at a reduced price. On the outside, the new iPad 10.2 looks identical to the iPad 10.2 2020. It measures 25.06 x 17.4, 1x 0.75 centimeters, and has the same 10.2-inch screen as last year's model, with the thicker top and bottom bezel. The former houses the 12MP front-facing camera, while the latter features the home button with built-in Touch ID sensor. While the design looks slightly dated compared to the rest of the iPad lineup, it still feels like a sturdy bit of kit, which, considering the price point, is no mean feat. There's no Face ID either, so you're reliant on Touch ID. And we found the fingerprint scanner was quick to register our fingerprint and unlock the tablet. Apple has given the iPad 10.2 a new chipset in the form of the A13 Bionic processor, which debuted in 2019 in the iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro. Well, it's not the brand's latest processor. That's the A15 Bionic, which can be found in the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro. It's certainly a solid upgrade over the A12 Bionic in the iPad 10.2 2020. In real-world use, the latest iPad is slightly snappier in operation. Apple claims it's 20% faster than the previous model, although it's not as speedy as the iPad Air 4, which touts the new A14 Bionic chipset. Nor can it touch the iPad Pro 2021 and its M1 chipset. In terms of speed, as we've mentioned, both models of the iPad 10.2 2021 have double the storage space of last year's equivalents. You can choose from either 64 GB or 256 GB models, although, as with all iPads, there's no support for a micro SD card, so you can't expand the storage space at a later date. Like the iPad Mini 2021, the iPad 10.2 2021 arrives running iPadOS 15, Apple's dedicated tablet version of iOS, as well as offering many of the features found in iOS 15. It's designed to make the most of the tablet's form factor, and as such, it brings refinements to multitasking. The facility to use two apps at the same time and manually control how much of the screen each takes up was introduced in iPadOS 14, but the feature is now easier to use thanks to the new multitasking menu that appears at the top of any app. Previously, when creating a split screen setup, the second app had to be on the home page or in the app dock at the bottom of the screen in order for it to be added, but thanks to the addition of the app library, which was previously only available in iOS 14, all your apps are accessible from the dock, meaning any of them can be used to multitask. The new iPad 2021 will last for up to 10 hours between charges, according to Apple. During testing, we found this to be the case, with the slate good for around 10 hours of video playback before it needed recharging. While this isn't an improvement on the previous iteration, it is among the longest-lasting tablets we've tested. It took just under 3 hours to fully recharge the iPad. Using the 20W fast charger that's included in the box, you won't find wireless charging on any of the iPad range, as the feature isn't commonplace on tablets yet. Amazon's Best Fire tablet isn't the cheapest tablet around, but is fairly solid if you're not fussed about having an extensive ecosystem to dig into. Nevertheless, you get some strong specs for not a lot of money with this device, including a full HD 10.1-inch display that's well suited for watching movies and playing games. A reasonable 13 hours of battery life also means that the 2023 iteration of the Fire HD 10 has decent endurance for when you're on a lengthy trip. Its tough design should make it weather any bumps and knocks on said trip too. Just don't expect it to win many admiring looks, as its design is rather dated, but there are some caveats here, including the fact that you're limited to playing within Amazon's walled garden of Fire OS, which includes lots of unremovable apps. And for people with the Fire HD 10 from 2021, we're not convinced that this is a compelling upgrade. But for those of you who want a tough and no-frills tablet, then the Fire HD 10 is definitely worth considering. The Amazon Fire HD 10 follows all previous Amazon tablets in being a large plastic box, and that's not an insult. This is a utilitarian design made from a durable material, and more so than many other slates, it's ready to survive being dropped, being sat on, and being left in the bottom of very full bags. Weighing in at 433.6 G, the tablet is 30 G lighter than its predecessor, though you'd need scales to notice such a difference. There's no such dramatic size shift in the dimensions either, as at 246 x 164.8x 8.6 mm, it's only 1x 1.2 x 0.6 mm smaller than the 2021 model. The front of the tablet boasts a front-facing camera along one of the longer bezels. Like many modern-day tablets, slates of yore often put them 90 degrees around, resembling smartphones, so the camera would be at the top when held portrait, but this is awkward for video calls. While you can get a few high-end mobile games on the Amazon Fire HD 10, it's not exactly a gaming powerhouse, and you shouldn't buy it if you're looking for such a device. Amazon has put the MediaTek MT 8186A chipset in the slate, a low-end system on a chip that it's been using versions of in tablets for years now. I tested the Fire HD 820 20 years ago, and it had basically the same chip. It's paired with 3 GB RAM. The slate doesn't feel particularly fast either to navigate or when booting up or using apps. It doesn't necessarily feel as sluggish as some of Amazon's older slates, but the tablet works best for tasks that don't need much processor power, like reading books on the Kindle app or watching TV shows. At least you can load up lots of data onto the tablet, while its basic configuration comes with either 32 GB or 64 GB memory. Depending on what you pay for, you can use a micro SD card to expand the storage up to 1 terabyte. Like all Amazon tablets, the Fire HD 10 comes on Amazon's homebrewed software called Fire OS 8, which is a distant cousin of Android 11. That is to say, it's based on that. Fire OS definitely doesn't feel like Android, though. The entire user interface of Fire tablets revolves around entertainment. The home screen has widgets for discovering new movies and TV shows on Prime Video or Freevee, books to read on the Kindle store, extra streaming services, and games you might want to download. By default, you'll have most of Amazon's subscription service apps installed, like Amazon Music, Audible, and Goodreads. From the home screen, swiping right takes you to a list of recommended games, books, and film, TV, while swiping left takes you to your entire library of things installed or available to you based on your subscriptions. That is to say, this isn't a tablet designed for people who need a creative or business tool. It's for entertainment, specifically of the moving picture or word variety, though there are several audio apps too. The estimate Amazon gives for the Fire HD 10 is up to 13 hours. And in our testing, we'd say that this rough guess is okay, but there's a lot of nuance. That's because the battery life varies a lot by what you're doing. The Samsung Galaxy Tab A8 has since been replaced by the newer Galaxy Tab A9, which we're currently testing, hence its absence from this list. But while the latter device offers slightly better specs specifically, it boasts more RAM and is 176 GB lighter. The Galaxy Tab A9 has at least made the still excellent Galaxy Tab A8 cheaper than ever. In 2024, the Galaxy Tab A8 is Samsung's answer to Apple's best cheap tablet, which you've seen above. If you're looking for an Android-powered iPad rival on a budget, this is the slate you should consider, with Google's Android operating system providing plenty of flexibility. Coupled with a large HD display, the 10.5-inch Tab A8 is great for movies and web browsing. It also benefits from long battery life in our experience, so you can indulge in a movie marathon. Just be aware that it can take some time to charge. It's not the most powerful tablet around, and overall, we'd give Apple's cheapest iPad the edge, but for media and basic app use around the house, this is a strong choice. With a sleek and simple design, the Samsung Galaxy Tab A8 doesn't really do anything different from other tablets. The review unit I was sent comes in a dark gray metal chassis, which is the only color option readily available in Australia where the testing was conducted. However, UK and US buyers have some other color choices, including a delightful pink, gold, or silver option. There is a slight camera bump on the rear, so while it'll get a bit of a wobble when not in a case, it's not as intrusive as some other similar tablets. There's plenty happening along the edges of the device. One houses the dual speakers with another longer edge, offering up the USB-C charging port, and interestingly, a 3.5mm aux port to plug in wired headphones or even a small speaker that comes with a standard cable. Another side houses the micro SD tray, while the opposite side has the power and volume buttons, plus the tablet's built-in microphone. The device comes loaded with Android 11 out of the box, but you will be prompted to update with support available. For Android 13, the majority of my testing was done on Android 11, but then I updated it to Android 13 later to see how it impacted performance. While OS updates can be painstakingly time-consuming, I found this to be very quick, and I welcomed the changes that Android 13 brought. A better on-screen keyboard, the ability to add widgets to the home screen, and a simpler camera app layout. In terms of performance, I found the latest version of the OS to be marginally snappier, but other than some quality-of-life changes in onboard apps, it was negligible. Given that it only has up to 4 GB of memory, its overall performance is pretty good even when running multiple apps that have moving graphics or videos. It won't prompt you to clean up the device's storage like the TCL NX Paper 10s does. But there's a button to close all currently open apps on the currently open apps screen to help improve its running capability in the short term instead. While a 7040 mAh battery in the Samsung Galaxy Tab A8 sounds impressive on paper, it's a smaller capacity than both the 2021 iPad's 8 526 mAh and the TCL and NXT Paper 10s 8000 mAh batteries. Despite that, it still offers a decent runtime of up to a few days. Depending on usage, I left it playing a movie for about 2.5 hours at full brightness and found that it had only gone down by around 25%. That means you'll get roughly 10 hours of runtime if you're primarily using it to stream media with minimal use. I found that the battery lasted days, only dropping to around 60% from full charge across 3 days of light usage that ranged from watching a quick video, typing a few notes, or playing a mobile game. Across this time, I would have used it for a combined time of 6 hours with both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth also turned on, and varying brightness. The 8-inch Amazon Fire HD 8 Plus is essentially the Amazon Fire HD 8 2020, but just made a little bit better, so it's no wonder it's one of the best cheap tablets. It has more RAM at 3 GB, supports wireless charging, so you can use it with an optional dock that brings it close to an Echo Show, and comes with a speedier charger than the standard Fire HD 8. Beyond that, it's much the same as its cheaper sibling, but that in itself makes it faster than the previous generation of the Amazon Fire HD 8, as well as giving you much more storage to play with the Amazon Fire HD 8 Plus. Still isn't the fastest of slates in our tests, but it holds its own for what it costs. And if you want a small-sized tablet and smart display all-in-one, it's a top choice, though, for just the tablet part. You might want to consider the standard Fire HD 8 2020 instead. Physically, the Amazon Fire HD 8 Plus is the twin of the standard model, a generic rectangle with a plastic back. It's not a premium slate, and it won't win awards for innovation, but the new generation of Fire tablets does possess a slightly neater form factor than before. At 202S 137X 9.7 mAh, the tablets are 12 mm shorter and 9 mm wider than the 2018 version. The black bezel is hardly invisible, but it's now in even width the whole way around the display, which gives the devices a cleaner look. For many people, those dimensions represent pretty much the ideal size for a personal media device, and at 355G, it's lighter than several competitors. The plastic shell does give it a budget impression, but the Fire HD 8 Plus feels well made in the hand with minimal flex and no gaps or creaks. With 3 GB RAM at its disposal, the Amazon Fire HD 8 Plus has more memory than any previous Fire tablet in 1 GB, more than the standard Fire HD 8, unfortunately the 2 GHz processor. it's paired with is very much a budget chip. It is significantly snappier than the 2018 version, and there are moments when the added RAM gives the Plus better performance than the standard Fire HD8, assisted by the new game mode, which disables Alexa, hides notifications, and optimizes performance. Games such as Real Racing 3 and SimCity build it ran slightly smoother while navigating between home screens and apps. Felt marginally quicker. That said, the Fire HD8 Plus is still no workhorse. There's plenty of lag when unlocking the tablet, browsing the web, and generally swiping around the interface, especially on screens that are densely packed with images. For example, there's no shortage of stutter while flicking through the thumbnail covers for Prime TV and movie listings. As with all Fire tablets before, the Amazon Fire HD 8 Plus is locked to Fire OS, Amazon's heavily skinned version of Android. The software has long been a love it or hate it proposition, and all of its major limitations remain, especially for those accustomed to the freedom of vanilla Android built around the Amazon ecosystem. The restrictive interface resembles an extended storefront. Swipe across from the home screen, and you'll find pages dedicated to video, games, and apps, shop, music, Audible, and Newsstand, all of which offer little room to maneuver away from the overwhelming arsenal of Amazon-branded content. This is particularly problematic if you're not a Prime subscriber. Amazon material is prioritized and promoted at every turn, including on the lock screen. Unless you pay £10 extra without a membership, you'll struggle to make the most of the content library that the tablet is built around, and you'll run up against regular payment prompts and free trial offers. While Amazon doesn't list the actual capacity of the cell inside the Fire HD8 Plus, it does rate the battery life at 12 hours. That's 2 hours longer than the previous version, and in mixed-use conditions proves an accurate estimate. Stick to the less testing activities that the tablet is clearly designed for, such as listening to music, reading books, and watching offline videos, and you'll comfortably get 12 hours of usage from a single full charge. Challenge the tablet with more demanding tasks, and the battery will naturally deplete more quickly, but 6 to 8 hours is still realistic. In game mode, battery drain is also fairly consistent while playing games and streaming videos, so you shouldn't find yourself shocked by any sudden drops.